This is an after-school program podcast.
Welcome to the Home Studio Hangout podcast, where we explore what it's like building, running, and working out of a home studio with your hosts, Joshua Matotek, Andrew Simmons, and many guests in different areas of the music industry.
And welcome back to the Home Studio Hangout podcast. It's your boy Drew here with my friend Joshua. Say hello, Josh.
Hi.
It's been a long time since.
It's been a long time.
Well, it's been 2 months since we posted an episode, and then it's been even longer since you were on because I did a bunch of interviews without you.
Yeah,
I think that's correct.
yeah, because I went to LA, then I went to Georgia, then I came back, then I went to Detroit, then I went to Georgia. Now I'm moving to Georgia.
Came back. So yeah, let's do life update stuff. Josh, what's been going on? And I know, like you said, you've been traveling a lot the last, let's just say year.
Yeah, man. Every time I try to find a reason to not write songs, I find another reason to. And that's been really annoying because for those who aren't writers, making money as a songwriter is very difficult.
Especially in the beginning.
Yeah, I found out recently that a lot of EDM features, those vocalists, they'll write their part and then they just sell it. And the ones that are good and are working with big artists are selling it for $1,000.
I mean, that's
and then
smart.
Yeah, and then they get a little bit of points or whatever. And it's that's dope, I mean, say if you're my one friend, he has a friend who is really growing in the EDM world, and I won't drop any names, but he only charges $500 for a feature, and he's fortunate enough that he's done it for a while and he's good enough that he'll have 2 songs a week come out, so he's doing okay, but he also lives in New York.
Yeah, so he's around that whole scene.
Yeah, so it's technically he's making $4,000 a month plus a little bit of royalties. Let's say he's killing it, and he's getting
10K.
Yeah, even if it's 10,000 a month, it's okay, that's awesome, dude. I mean, I wish I was making 10,000 a month.
$120,000 a year just doing features, that's great.
Yeah, and it's that's really not bad at all. But at the same time, it feels kind of weird because he has so many streams under his belt, and it's that dude deserves more money,
Yeah,
and,
I guess it depends on how big those are hitting and if he's getting back end on all of those features.
Yeah, we're talking hundreds of millions of plays and festivals and stuff like that, and it's just I don't know, man. That blew me away because I would never sell a feature for less points, but I guess that's just how EDM works.
I think it might just be, maybe it's just their industry. That's just
yeah, and then you look at pop and it's even harder, because it's only points. So you have to make sure that you're writing with artists who are streaming well in order to make money, and that's
points.
Yeah, that's super super hard too.
Yeah,
but every time I'm no, I'm just gonna produce and I'm just gonna mix. I end up getting hit up to work with another artist that has cool stuff going on.
That's cool.
And so it's been sick. It kind of feels like I'm at the point where things are gonna start snowballing for me, which I'm excited for. Perfect timing with the move to Atlanta and all that stuff. So
yeah, I think that's the big thing is Josh is moving to the South, guys. Josh is coming down south.
Yeah, man. Not even a year ago, I said I would never move to the South. And here I am. I love the South.
You are back again.
Hey, to be fair though, I grew up in Beaver County, Pennsylvania. So
basically the same.
Yeah, it's basically the most desolate areas of Alabama or Georgia. So
you're moving to Atlanta. That's not the same thing.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. We were trying to figure out where we wanted to live, and I feel like the smart move would be for us to move to Los Angeles, with Maddie working in graphic design and wanting to move into character design, and she has some interest in animation and stuff like that, or modeling. I don't think she really wants to dive into animation.
It's
a lot.
world.
But And then, with me writing pop songs, it's like LA would be perfect, but then it's like the cost of living in LA, dude. Like I didn't even have to pay rent, and I dropped so much money out there in a month.
Yeah, and
It's like it just doesn't make sense. Like I'll move to LA whenever like I need to,
I was gonna say I only see a lot of people that are like more veterans are leaving LA. I'm noticing.
Yeah, dude, everybody's leaving LA. And then last year, bro, like I was talking to Maddie about this. I think moving to Atlanta is such a smart choice right now because everyone's moving to Nashville, and now Nashville is getting super, super expensive. And so Atlanta, on the other hand,
they're all coming 2 hours south.
Yeah, it's like, bro, like we're about to be living like almost in the city, and we're close to everything, and we're in like 20 seconds from our apartment or like $5 million houses, and it's literally going to be like the same price as living in the outskirts of Nashville.
Heck yeah.
And
what you're gonna find is like everybody is moving to the southeast right now. I think there's a huge upswing of people moving to the southeast, specifically from the west coast. We're getting a huge uptick in Greenville of LA people, San Francisco people, Seattle people who they're like, either it's too crowded or I just can't afford to live there anymore, and it just doesn't make sense. And I can work the same remote job in Greenville or Atlanta with a much lower cost of living and not
and actually have a chance of buying a house.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing, bro. It's like we purposely chose this area because like we want to be close for the first year, just so like we could learn the city better. It's actually kind of funny. I know LA to the point that like I can get around without GPS.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. In Atlanta, I'm still not there yet. Like the idea
Atlanta's
of having
big, though, dude. Atlanta's spread out, and there's so many ways to get everywhere.
Well, on top of that, you have the highway system, which is so well thought out, where you have like I think you have like the cross section, right?
85,
and then I believe you have more going like splitting those, right?
Yeah. So
you have one circling.
You have 85, which is the big one. 285 is the circle. That's where that's the one that takes you to like Tucker, where Lee's spot is at.
Yeah.
And then it takes you all the way around to like Buckhead area. And then it ends up bringing you back to what they call Spaghetti Junction, which is like the big, like monstrosity thing on South 85. But then from there, you also have like 77, and you also have 95. And you also have another, it's a one something, I can't remember, 176 maybe. But they all like are basically X's that take you to like Savannah or Jacksonville. Like one will take you down to Jacksonville. One will take you up to, if you get on 285 and go to Marietta, that'll take you up towards like Chattanooga and towards Nashville. So that's how you kind of get to Nashville, is that kind of way. It really kind of makes a lot of sense though if you know your 5 main highways.
Because that's the thing. Like I didn't have that growing up in Pittsburgh. Like we have, like where I live, it's 79, and then 79 turns into 279, which heads into the city. Then you have 79 that just stays 79, and that'll take you down to West Virginia. And then it kind of goes like west of the city a little bit. And then you have 376, which is like your east and west shindig. Okay, and then like that's it. Oh, and you have the turnpike, but nobody actually goes on the turnpike.
Yeah.
Stupid. And so so like that's literally it. Like so there's a lot of, like there's this one route where like if you want to go through the north side, you get onto it's like Westview, north side, Bellevue area. And it's like it's called like old Route 19, I think, or Old Perry Highway. And it's funny because at one point in it, like you'll be like sitting in rush hour traffic and the light turns green. People are flying down this street. It's a narrow old street with all of like the like typical like steel town houses, with like street parking. So it's super narrow. People are flying down it. And then there's literally a 360-degree turn on it because it's going down like a slope, like in the valley. And like
it's that turn real hard.
bro, it's actually crazy. And so like for me to just like hit the highway for a couple miles is like almost like silly. Like that's not something that works with my brain. So it's been a lot of
Yeah.
a
Atlanta's
lot of that stuff.
mostly getting on the highway or finding weird back strips to get to places, because I've been
Yeah,
around enough just because I have a lot of friends down there, and
yeah,
there's some ways to get from like the Jefferson Winder area, like North Georgia, like almost into South Carolina area. There's a way to get from that all the way into like downtown, basically, to the Masquerade without getting on the highway.
oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, it's crazy. I think it has a lot to do with like taking Peachtree a lot of different directions.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, yeah, you're gonna love the like combo of being able to take the simple route of just let's get on the highway, let's sit in traffic for a little while and go south or go north or whatever.
Yeah, that's really the craziest part about it, because it's like if you're trying to go from one end of Pittsburgh to the other in like rush hour traffic, like it sucks, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
I mean, like I've sat in traffic in Georgia for a long time too. But as long as there's like no accidents, which is also pretty rare, like it actually moves pretty quick. Like even whenever I've sat in bumper to bumper traffic, it still moves quicker than Pittsburgh. Like
Yeah, it's not that
those
bad.
who know Pittsburgh, I was going to the studio
Mhm.
that I ran out, which is in the South Hills, and I live above the North Hills, so it's a journey. And I made the mistake of trying to take the Liberty Bridge downtown to connect through,
Yeah.
and it was rush hour, and I sat on the Veterans Bridge. I think it's the Veterans Bridge. Sat on the Veterans Bridge for 45 minutes, and it's like not even a half a mile stretch. It was absurd. So like I don't know. I'm kind of nervous, like learning everything, but it can't be as bad as Florida.
No,
with
it
this.
won't be as bad as
But oh yeah, before we got on the traffic thing, ADHD is going crazy right now. I haven't finished my coffee yet. Like last year, Sony ATV opened up their own office and studio in Atlanta.
Oh yeah, yeah, you were telling me about that. And
Yep.
you
And
were
so I
applying
feel like,
or something like that.
what was that?
Were you applying for a room or something like that?
No, no,
Oh,
not there. I'm trying to get into Blue Room.
that was the one you mentioned that
Yeah,
happened in a spot. Okay, yeah, that
yeah,
was
I would really like to try my hand at engineering and like see how that goes. But
yeah.
I think like past few months just keep on solidifying that I should just be focusing on writing and production. But
Writing and production, dude. Yeah, I mean that's your sweet spot. The best songs I've heard you do, you've had a heavy hand in both of those aspects.
thanks, man.
Um,
Yeah, it's like becoming a trending thing, you know. And so like I really feel like I have a sound that can be
sure.
used in
We'll also give the home studio hangout congratulations to Josh hitting his biggest goal of the year of having potentially an artist sign. We won't say names or anything like that, but he has reached the goal. I think things have been signed officially.
Oh yeah, it's official.
He got his first artist signed to a major.
I didn't do it.
But
I was along for the journey.
you were your production and songwriting made it possible, along with this artist's really big drive and push for TikTok, and taking as the combination of the team, you being a part of that team, got this artist signed to a major. So heck yeah, we've crossed that one off the lifetime list, bro.
It's also pretty sick. We kind of planned that whole session on like a whim, you know.
Yeah.
And we got this really big song out of it. And like as soon as he made the decision that he was going to sign, he called me up and he was like, dude, we need to work again. So once I'm settled in Atlanta, he's going to fly in for a few days and we'll be doing sessions. I'm just
in Los Angeles.
In Atlanta. He wants to come to Atlanta.
No,
he's kind of at that stage.
Where is he at? Like out of, okay, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Well, he grew up in upstate New York, so at first Los Angeles was cool.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's the same thing for me. First time I was in LA, I was like, wow. I remember landing in LA, and then you just see the city and like,
Yeah.
because like Los Angeles itself isn't big. The metro area is absolutely huge. It's like,
Yeah.
which I found out Japan is like twice the size of Los Angeles, which blows my mind. But anyway, so I remember like you're landing and you're looking and you're like, the buildings never stop.
Yeah, it's just city. It's just so
Yeah,
much
and like,
city. And then you
yeah,
can kind of see the shoreline.
yeah, you see the shoreline and then the mountains, and it's just like I just fell in love. And then like you're there long enough, and you're like, man, I really like working in Los Angeles, but I kind of hate the people, and I kind of hate the place in general. The mountains are great, the food is great, the ocean's cool. I mean,
It's okay.
I remember, I distinctly remember watching a gang member threaten to kill somebody on at Venice Beach, which my mistake. I mean, everyone said don't go to Venice Beach. I went anyway. You know, it happens. But you know, so it is what it is. But
Yeah.
you know, so it's like for him, he's like, dude, I'm always looking for excuses now to get out of LA. Like whenever he went, whenever he made the decision to sign, like he flew back to New York and to be with family and all that stuff. And then he flew back to LA, then he flew to New York City. And then I guess he's spending more time in upstate New York because he's like, I just
don't want to go back.
Well, then on top of that, he's been grinding his little butt cheeks off. And so he's just been constantly, you know, around people and sessions, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And so I definitely get it, you know. And that's like kind of like what I'm really excited about Atlanta is it's so easy to get away,
bro.
You know? All my friends down there, they're always taking trips. I mean, they're going out to Panama City.
They're literally going to the mountains tomorrow.
Yeah, and then
like
they're going to the
weekend,
mountains this weekend. Then they're going to Panama City in a couple weeks. And like, it's funny because they said they were going to Panama City, and I didn't know that Panama City existed in Florida.
Yeah, but
I do know it's the capital of Panama. And so I said, oh wow, yeah, I've never left the country. And they were all like, bro, you're an idiot. I was like, hey, I'm sorry for thinking my friends were doing something way cooler than Florida.
Panama City Beach is cool though, dude. If you've never been, it's really cool.
It looks really pretty. I looked up photos, and
it's probably one of the cleanest like East Coast water places because it's in that curve. Yeah,
so it's not in the Gulf.
No, good. I don't think so. I thought it was.
Yeah, I was just making sure. After living in St. Pete, I'm like, yeah, I don't have any intention to go into Gulf side Florida.
No, I don't think it's the Gulf. Hold on a second.
But yeah, it's sick because like you could take a short trip, go to Savannah, you could go to Asheville, I could go see you in Greenville, you could go up to the Smoky Mountains.
Yeah, dude. I'm like not that far away from you at all.
You're like 2 hours, right?
Yeah, not even, if depending on where you guys end up. If you're a little north of where Lee's spot is, yeah, you're like 2 hours from me.
Yeah, I'm south.
Then you'll be like 2.5 hours from me. It's not that far.
I keep thinking we're more south than what we really are because we were staying like in the center of North Druid Hills. So
Panama City is like in the not the main part of Florida, but it's in the Gulf, but it's in the top part. It's in the good part. It's like if you were to look at like Alabama, it's the part of Florida that is under Alabama.
Oh yeah, that section. Yeah, I heard that area is really, really pretty.
Mm-hmm. That's where like all of you get a lot of like Jamaican influenced life because of like the Gulf aspect of it.
Dude, that was I literally want to take a weekend trip back to St. Pete to get the burritos that I really like there, and then to pick up all the Jamaican food trucks.
Yeah, dude, I'm sure in Florida there's a ton of cool like Jamaican style food trucks and stuff.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm just excited. It's gonna be pretty dope.
Yeah. In that, it's been Father's Day. I wanted to show you this. It was Father's Day on Sunday, and Aaron bought me some stuff. So firstly, I feel like I had to get this because obviously legend
Well, yeah, because all Dave ever does is tell stories, and I could listen to him tell stories.
Exactly. So like,
For those who aren't watching this,
why not get an entire book of Dave Grohl's stories?
yeah, exactly.
So there's that. But then the good get, you're gonna love this. You're gonna love this.
Oh, let's go.
Look at these Full Metal Alchemist special edition, and it's like the first 12 volumes.
Oh man.
They and like the inside of them are like have the colored art and stuff. Dude, isn't that sick?
That's actually crazy.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, it's got the first 6 chapters, and then like the next like 5 or 6 or something like that.
Let's go.
I'm gonna start getting these on my shelf because they look so freaking cool. I just wanted to do that because it's cool and nerdy.
I'm such a fan.
So in the music world, in the realm of music, there's been a new plugin that has been all the talk of the town lately that I wanted to talk with Josh about. We've had friends make video on it. I think when it came out, our group chat like exploded about it. And I want to say right now at time of recording, you can get it at an introductory price of $70. That's what I got it at.
And I paid 80.
Yeah, I got like $70 or maybe it's $80. I don't know, but it's like the not full $130, $120 of what it normally is.
Yeah.
That's the Jason Joshua's plugin, God Particle. Now, God Particle. Now, Josh, fill the people in on who Jason Joshua is if you don't know who he is.
He's a really good mixing engineer.
Like, incredible.
Yeah, he's really. Yeah, he's up there with as far as quality goes. Like he's up there
with the modern and like he's like what I would argue he's one of the more modern greats of mixing, like in the current age.
Yeah.
What's his? Yeah. What are some notable credits?
Dude, I'll be honest with you. Because I didn't come up in pop, I legit had no clue who he was when like our group chat was talking about him, and then I looked him up because I just never felt like I should really care about the thing. I'm on his website and there's music playing. I mean, he first one on his website, Raven Simone. All right.
I think he's got a Michael Jackson credit.
Oh God, we're gonna get fired. How do I stop the music? All right, I got it.
How do I stop the music? I think he's got he's got a Beyonce cut. He's got
so basically everything in the 2000s he mixed it, and he's still making a lot of big records. But literally, like the reason why I didn't know who he was is because it was like really all like the 2000 stuff. But then like.
And then he was like silent for a really long time, or like it wasn't as prevalent or something like that. He was
also working on like smaller records. Like he was working with like Tyler Carter or Tyler the Creator, Earl Sweatshirt, like all the Odd Future guys.
Gotcha. So he was working with guys in the scene that you liked. You just didn't even know it.
Yeah, I just didn't even know it. I mean, you also really don't think of their mixes as like being anything to write home about because the production is so weird that like from a mixing standpoint, you can't like make it super pristine, pop. So like, I legit had no clue who he was at first, and I think that that's rather hilarious. But so he dropped God Particle, and it's essentially his Ozone 4 preset, which you have to run through Blue Cat because Ozone 4 doesn't work anymore. So it's his Ozone preset with Oxford Inflator at the end of it. And I bought it because everyone was like, yo, this is sick. First time I loaded it up, I was like, yo, this is trash. And then I started like messing around with it. Because like I'm a tinkering kind of dude. Like Newfangled Elevate, dude. That's one of my favorite plugins because of how much stuff I could change, and I could really dial that plugin in to do exactly what I want it to do. And God Particle isn't like that. It's more like a set it and forget it kind of plugin. So you have your EQ section at the front end, which is a really broad shelf with resonant dip at 5K if you're boosting.
Yeah.
A mid bump at like 5 to 600, and then a low bump. So
I
the
think
idea behind this,
Nick from previous episode, mastering engineer De Lorenzo, I sent you that video, I think, but he did a full video on like showing what harmonically it's adding and like a deep dive on the EQs is like exactly like where they're at, and then like what kind of multiband it's doing and like where it's really trying to push. It's a lot of mid-focus stuff I'm noticing.
yeah, well, that's like a whole conversation in itself about being more mid focused. But yeah, so then it has the EQ that goes into the multi-band compressor, and then you have a giant amount knob, which first I couldn't figure out what it was doing. If I'm correct, it would be parallel compression, right?
So I think it's doing there's some saturation built into the knob as well, I believe. I think it's like I think Nick said it's an odd numbered frequency harmonic exciter. So it's doing it at like the ones, threes, fives, sevens, that kind of range, nines kind of range. Which is interesting because a lot of those areas tend to be the weird areas, honestly. Like if you think of like 1K, right? Kind of a weirder area. 3K, generally kind of a weirder area. 7K, very big harsh area, and like same with like 9K, right? And then kind of going down in the hundreds in the same. So I think it's saturating, from what I can tell, it's saturating those areas to kind of fix some harshness issues from a back bus perspective.
Yeah, definitely. And so because like I couldn't figure out what it was, and then I found out it's like technically a multi-band. So if it's adding in harmonics with that knob, then it would make sense why I couldn't figure out what it was.
I think it's harmonics and the multi-band at the same time. I just don't remember exactly like how much it's leaning. It's pretty hefty on the harmonic saturation though, from what I can tell.
Yeah. So what he would do for the saturation is he would just have one band running on the Ozone exciter, and I think it was set on triode. And then
makes sense why it would be the odd numbered sequence.
Yeah, and then the multi-band was at, I think it was at 160 was the first cutoff point, like the crossover point. The second crossover point was either at 2.5K or 5K. I can't remember. So it's literally just his Ozone 4 preset followed by Oxford Inflator, which is the limiter on it. And they just kind of modded the code, so then that way it handles low end better. And I really like it. I never liked Oxford Inflator just because like I don't like doing a lot of limiting. The only time I limit right now is on vocals, and then on like the very last stage of my master. But the thing is I get all of my volume from clippers and from Good Math, and then I put the limiter on it as like a true limiter where I just want to make sure I'm not, clipping too hard.
I think
so. Like I don't get any of my volume from limiters, so typically I just leave the limiter off on it. But I love the EQ because it kind of helps me fix things that I do a lot of subtractive EQ in the
so there's another thing that big knob is doing. So there's a big high shelf, because they talk about like there's like that the Jason Joshua like shelf like idea, which for those that don't know, it's the idea of taking a low band. He really likes using a lot of shelves rather than like filters. He likes using shelves to like mitigate high end or low end. So
he's the opposite of Tomei.
Yeah, exactly. He's literally the opposite. It's really funny. And so the low end, he tends to do a low end shelf, I think starting at like kind of high up from what I remember. It was like 400 or 500 from what I remember. But it was like just kind of to taste. So this plugin has a high shelf built into it starting at like 160. going all the way across. And then he has so that's a high resonant shelf. And then he's got another high shelf, but dropping starting at 2.5K.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. I got the crossovers right.
You did. So it's like 160 up, and then at 2.5K, there's another one that dips down, and that like balances out the top end.
Yeah. That makes sense.
But it doesn't have a bump thing.
Yeah, that's typically the kind of stuff that I do. Now, so the thing about the mid bump thing is everybody tends to focus on their low end and the high end, which is why, in my opinion, most mixes are bad.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you look at like the best mixers, they're on mid forward monitors for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of my favorites is Baines. He's running Amphions.
Yeah, I've been a fan of Baines.
Tomei was always on ATCs. Now he's running them side by side with Ex Machinas.
Mm-hmm.
Jason was on ATCs. Josh Goodwin's on ATCs. Like all of my favorite mixers are on some sort of mid forward speaker.
Yeah.
So I noticed my mixes like when I got my focal shapes, like my mixes leveled up overnight. They still weren't where I wanted them to be. So I changed the EQ on them. So I have less low end and less high end, less distortion all around. And now I have a lot more mid clarity. I'm able to kind of take like more of a mid forward approach.
Interesting.
And so I find like whenever you're able to sort out your mids, everything else will sit a lot easier. And I noticed before what I was doing is I would just do a lot of reduction at like 2 to 3K across everything. And then I would have a hole in my mix. But now that I'm able to hear that, I don't have to make vocals super bright because there's nothing covering them up. I don't have to like ruin my low end because there's nothing clouding it up. Like everything becomes a lot more clear whenever you have like more of a mid forward approach. And so what I love about God Particle in particular is I always mix with my 808s very distorted.
Mm-hmm.
Like not just 808 subs in general. All my subs very distorted. And then I high pass them up to like between 25 and 35. And I do that because on most systems, you're not going to be able to hear 20 hertz, nor do you want to hear 20 hertz.
Gross.
And that's eating up all of your headroom.
Mm-hmm.
And so
even if you go below that too, that even though you can't hear below 20, it does still exist. It's just not recreatable, but it can be read by plugins. So that still also eats up headroom.
Yeah, exactly. And so God Particle automatically kind of forces everything into place. So what I do for all my demos now is I just use guard particle. That's what my brain wants to say. I just use God Particle now for all my demos because then I don't have to fiddle with my 808s.
I feel like if you're not a mixing engineer and you're just a producer or a songwriter, like this is the game-changing plugin for you as far as like having more pro bounces, having more pro demo bounces for your beats and productions.
I'll be honest, in a way, it kind of does. It kind of like, okay, like I'm not one of the dudes that's like in love with this plugin. I like the plugin. I like it a lot. I think it's a great plugin.
Yeah.
The fact that it's so limiting as far as like customization goes is like the biggest downfall for me. So for me, in a way, it doesn't even feel like FGX because like, oh, that's another thing I could scream about for a while, but I won't right now. Like it kind of has like that gain reduction vibe, like from JST.
Yeah.
You know, and I really don't like that a lot. Like I just don't like that. But what I will say is that if you take off the limiter, you barely have that amount going, and then you just use like that EQ. That EQ is so good, dude.
And the multiband in it is really nice.
It is nice. I just don't like compressing on my master bus.
Oh, you compress on the way. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't.
What you gotta do for that is just turn your input down so it doesn't hit the multiband like at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's because the other thing about this plugin that's interesting is it has like a sweet spot meter. From what that's what that looks like. It is, at least it's like this is like the optimal range to feed this plugin, which is interesting to me that that's not on more plugins, I guess. um like a suggested starting point, at least. Yeah, obviously you can do whatever you want with whatever you want, but like it would be really interesting, I think, to start seeing that on other plugins, right? Like if you want to use it for the way that it's meant to be, here's like a rough estimate of maybe like where you should be feeding it as far as gain coming on the way in, but then also just do whatever you want to with it.
Yeah, I could definitely agree with that. It's yeah, it's dope. I love it. Like I said, like I spent a lot of time getting my master chain down in right because I felt like mastering was my biggest weakness.
Mhm.
And so what I ended up doing is I would run, what would I run? So I would run the Lindell 80 bus, which is a 80s, like a Neve 80 series line amp. Um that would just kind of be giving it some of like that low mids that we all love, and from Neve, and then that would then go into the AMEC EQ, the GML
Mm-hmm.
one. Then I would do Weiss de-esser, just barely hitting like the really harsh stuff. Sometimes I would use Spectral Shaper.
I use Sooth for that, basically.
Yeah, I'm anti-sooth, and then and then after that I would use just like Good Math, which still isn't out yet, and then Elevate, and then that kind of morphed into a combination of different things.
Yeah.
I was also using Ozone for a really long time, basically to do what God Particle is doing now, and I still have my Ozone preset that I use pretty often, and that's just kind of like a starting point for the master, and then from there it's everything else. But God Particle is sick because I'm able to like use it on a demo, and then whenever I go to like mix it completely, like it still is going to sound similar. It's just I'm like my final mix is going to have way more transients in it.
Yeah. Well, and I think as a starting point, it's a really, really good place to be. I'm gonna let it live on my master bus for a little bit, I think. So a normal general master bus is I have an EQ preset that I got from Lee, that I've been using, and I've used that on about, I want to say, 4 or 5 mixes in the past like month, and I really like it.
Bro,
Gets me a little bit further.
I need to send you my Ozone presets for mastering and vocals.
Yeah, you sent me one. I don't remember which one you sent me.
It would have been the vocal one.
I think you sent me.
We should probably put those in the show notes. So if anybody wants them, they could download these.
Dude, we'll drop them.
Surely would be more than happy to drop the Pro Q preset.
Yeah, 100. Oh yeah, I'll text him just to double check, but I'll make like a Dropbox folder and just put it in the show notes for this episode. And if you guys want to grab anything, it'll just be like an open Dropbox folder. You guys can just download everything.
Yeah, that would be sick. Because like I remember a while back I was listening to songs and I was like, man, these vocals they were insane. Because like I went through like just as many changes with my vocal chain as I have with my mastering chain over the past 6 months or so.
Yeah.
And I watched John Castelli mix this song. It's a T-Shine song, and first thing he did was put T-Rex Clipper, just like maxed it out. It sounded terrible in my opinion. I don't like super bright vocals, and they had like a ton of like mosquito frequencies,
Yep.
And I was like, not for me, but I'm gonna try that. And so
I do that with standard clip now.
Yeah. And so what I did after trying a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
I still use JST clip. What I landed on was Ozone 9 Maximizer on the third algorithm on clipping.
Okay. I've not ever thought about that. That's a good idea.
Yeah. And so
because that maximizer is really clean, but like doesn't introduce a bunch of extra stuff.
Yeah. And so what I do now it depends on what kind of source material I'm getting. My Lewitt sounds so good, and I think as the tube is like still breaking in, I'm now at a point where this microphone where I can run, like I use the UAD Neve 1073, and then I can run it into virtual mix rack where I'm just doing CS EQ for filtering. I do a 2K reduction and then a 400 or 600 reduction, which kind of brings out the mids a little bit more. And then I peak at 10K just to kind of give it that like a similar like C800 251 kind of curve.
Yeah.
And heavy filtering low and highs with that goes into custom opto on the pop vocal setting, but then I modified it to be closer to Josh Goodwin's settings for a CO1B. And I hit like 3 to 6 dB on that. And like my vocals are like 90% of the way done. So if I'm using my microphone, that's sick.
Yeah.
But then I also designed this new preset around this microphone because it can get very tubey and sometimes you don't want that. And so this preset is cool because you're able to really dial in the kind of saturation you're getting. I don't have any EQs loaded up on it, but I will sometimes filter with the Ozone EQs. So I believe the preset that I sent you, it starts with Ozone Exciter.
Okay.
Then that goes into
one.
Yeah, for the vocal chain, which my mastering chain also starts with Ozone Exciter.
Yeah.
So it'll go Exciter, then it goes into dynamics. And now my dynamics are set in a similar way to a CO1B where I'm clamping down on the low end and I'm allowing more headroom on the high end. So I'm not squishing the high end of the vocal. The biggest problem with a lot of people's vocal chains is like, there's this huge thing where it's like, oh, you need to have a C800 or a 251 going into a 1073 into a CO1B.
Yeah.
Now, if we look at that from the outside, that's all fine and dandy. Not everybody has $20,000 to spend on that. And
also not everybody's voice is suitable for that combo.
That's what I was just about to say. I have an awful voice. I sound terrible on every single bright microphone that I've ever sang into. Like even like Lee's real big on the Townsend. I was just down there Sunday tracking a song.
Yeah.
And I'm cutting it on the Townsend. And I sound horrendous on almost all those mic models besides the U87 ones and the 67s. And
the darkest, like, the darker ones that are on that section. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like then like the whole reason behind the 1073 is because it's a little bit mid forward. So it cuts down some of the high end and some of the low end. And then you go into the CL1B, which doesn't compress the pristine high end of those mics.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty easy to recreate that. You're not going to have it be exactly the same, obviously. But if you're processing your low mids and your mid range to the point where they're a little bit more planted, and then you have a more dynamic high end, then you're going to get a pretty similar, sounding vocal.
Yeah, I mean that's
you also have a more redundant rig where like I can use this mic on anybody in the world and it'll never sound bad. No,
that makes sense. So. Yeah, I'll finish what I was saying. No, you're good. The preset on the on my EQ is one that Lee sent that's based on his an piece of outboard gear that Lee has. Is it the
it's a Pultec style
Pultec EQ. Like EQ. Yeah. I knew it was a Pultec style, I just didn't know what it was called. I'll have to ask him. But
I don't know who makes it. It's either Tiegler or it's
I don't remember. But anyway, it's a Pultec style EQ. So he sent me that. I use that and kind of like get it to taste based on where my mix is kind of going into it. And then I'm hitting a light standard clip. And then it's going into thermal on the basic setting that thermal comes with, which is just like one distortion on, and I'm basically just using it as saturation somewhere between 11 and 17%.
Are you on the soft shaper mode?
Nice. It's a good little thing, especially you just take the low end band and you pull it all the way up to like 200 or 300 and only let it affect like that area. and it does
Because it
something.
carries it all the way up the spectrum. That's what I do with Exciter on my masters. I set it at 160 or lower, and then it'll smooth out the low end, and then it blends it into the mid range.
Exactly. So I'm doing a very similar thing with thermal, and what it also does is it kind of makes drums. It makes the transients on drums pop a little bit more for me, and it also makes vocals sit a little bit further like forward in the mix, but it still makes it feel like it's not jumping out at you. It's like in the mix still.
Bro, thermal is great. Like,
It's so
a lot of people write thermal off because of how
crazy the UI looks.
well, not only that, but how crazy that plugin is. Like, I use thermal for like all of my crazy effects, but then like it's so workable that like you could use it on heavy vocals. I loved using it on heavy vocals.
I did use it on heavy
on anything
last month.
You could literally use it on anything. And like, sure, you could probably get Saturn for most of those applications, but like I never even bought Saturn because between the Ozone Exciter and then thermal, it's just like
thermal is cheaper than Saturn. Why would I buy Saturn when I can get thermal on sale most of the time for like $80 or $120? Why would I pay almost $200 for Saturn?
Yep. Plus, then you also have a creative effect too. If you're producing, when it's going production tool, I'd rather have both and like learn it really, really well. Like, I don't know. I'm just not.
There's a lot of cool automation stuff because of the macro options that you get. Also, the X and Y macro options that you get in thermal, which makes it a lot easier for people like me and you who are doing a lot of crazy production choices. You can find some crazy stuff and then just map the macros to automation and just go wild with it. And you can make some cool sounds.
That's what I do. So like all of like my crazy like drum effects that I've been doing lately, it's always like in order for me to get the same results, I would have to use like 2 different distortions, a filter, maybe 2 filters, and then automated delays and reverbs. And sometimes a chorus, I'll swap one out. And thermal lets me do all that because each band you're allowed to put an effect on that distortion band. Then you also have the master effects, which then have their own envelopes that you can link to them. And it's just like it just makes so much more sense.
It's almost like it's kind of like having massive, but is only a distortion plugin.
I was just about to say that. I was like, I was gonna say it's exactly like having Serum, but without the synth.
It's basically having like massive or silent or Serum or Vital, but like not a synth. It's only an effects processor plugin and pretty much only a distortion processor plugin.
Oh, dude, speaking of synthesizers, do you have all of the Slate expansions for Anna?
Do I? I don't think so. Hold on a second. I don't have the Slate subscription. Actually, no, I take that back. I had to get the Slate subscription for so we're working on this new Harm record, and the guy we track drums with uses the Slate stuff for like his tracking template, and I really liked what he did when we tracked, and he was like, well, I don't want to go through and print 12 songs of drums when I'm just going to give you the sessions now. And I was like, I'll just get the Slate subscription for like a month or 2 for free and then edit all my drums and then print them then as I'm going through them instead of having to freaking have you do all that. It's not a big deal. So I have it right now.
Okay. First of all, you need to keep it. Second of all,
let's see.
All of their drum samples that you get with the subscription, insane. They have like the best 707 and 909 kits that I've ever heard. And they have a Lin drum kit that actually sounds like Lin drums, which is like really hard to find.
Nice. Yeah, that's nice.
The hip hop kit, crazy. It's like the sounds in it are like just I know that if I am away from my rig and someone doesn't have drum samples I could just go to the Slate site and download it. I actually have them all uploaded to Dropbox so I could quickly download the sample pack and use them.
Awesome.
The 808s, the Atlanta 808 is fire. It's massive. I love it.
I got one. But then, who was it? Hold on a second. I can tell you. I'm looking through my sample library right now. I got the. Oh, I'm also gonna, just as a side note, while I'm looking for these, I'm gonna drop that sample pack that Greg made for us. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. Of all the base wubs and all that kind of stuff. I'm just gonna drop that in that Dropbox folder as well.
Yeah, for anybody who's into
For
EDM.
anybody who's into that kind of stuff or just wants some cool samples, Greg made some dope samples that are very unique. The Murda Beats pack, the Slate Murda samples.
Oh yeah, I don't think
Those
I
are
have.
really good.
Dude, his last Splice kit is really nice.
Yeah. Yeah. These are like a bunch of different, these are different genres too. It's like not just hip hop. It's like because he works in like, I think he works in like some EDM stuff, and he also does like some vintage work and then more modern hip hop stuff. And I think he might do some like reggaeton or something like that. It's like a bunch of different types of samples all in this one pack. And I've used I think literally for a commission that somebody got me to do, I used almost only his drums from that pack. And
dude, I have all the Monte Booker samples, and so I'll use those. I use my own drum samples, the ones that I made, the Birdseed Volume 1. And then I have the Cruels stuff from Splice. And those are like my 3 go-to packs. And then I just downloaded a bunch of Cymatic stuff. I'll use some of that. I'll use the Slate stuff now. And so it's getting to the point where I'm using so many different packs. I'm about to just make like a favorites folder and just like,
bro, that's what I do in Ableton. It's great. I love it. I have like a favorites folder of sample drum stuff, and I put like whole packs in there now instead of just like individual samples. There's a pack that I got off of Splice that is based on like 40 drum sample stuff. So like anything from Toronto, really. That whole like very sheeny, dark, moody kind of stuff. That's also hip hop. That whole pack just lives in there now because I started pulling snares and hats from there so much for a bunch of different genres.
I need to all of the stuff that Boy Wonder has on Splice is also really good. And I don't use the Splice app anymore. I just use the file browser in Cubase, and I forgot to make a folder for those.
Yeah.
So I need to do that because stuff is really good.
Let's talk about real quick before we call it, because this will probably be the last thing we talk about. We did some catch up. We talked about the God particle. Oh, and the end of my master bus, by the way, after thermal is just God particle. I'm actually just, instead of doing it in the preferred area, I'm actually crushing it into God particle. And it's just using it to control my mid range and low end. That's pretty much it. And using the limiter because it's decent and kind of to taste. And it's working pretty well, actually. I'm using it in a weird way, and I think it sounds pretty good. So I'm gonna let it live on there for probably another couple weeks, and we'll see how that lasts. I'll keep you updated on that. Let's talk about Cymatics real quick and how dope their stuff is, because I'm a recent convert to Cymatics.
Same.
And like, so I found out about them because of this producer Eldre, who does a lot of lo-fi stuff, right? I found him on YouTube. I was looking up, like, I got a commission to do some lo-fi stuff probably a year and a half ago, something like that, and I had never really gotten into like real lo-fi. So I was like looking up some people that did some stuff, and he recommended that stuff in one of his videos, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Bro, they have so much free stuff.
They do. I downloaded all their free
good
stuff.
It's so good.
Bro, it's especially funny that there's like so many songs that came out of those packs. Like I was going through the other day and I was like, yo, man, this sounds a lot like Miss the Rage. And so I reversed the sample and it was
literally Miss the Rage. Yeah.
I was like, oh, I'm about to do something with this. And so there's a whole TikTok, like a viral TikTok quest with that one that'll happen with one of the artists that I work with.
But for real, like all of those packs, if you are just getting into production, go to Cymatics website. I think it's cymatics.fm or something like that. You get the Diablo Lite, which is a really cool like distortion plugin for free. That's great. You get a light version of one of their reverbs that is like really, really clean, almost like Valhalla vintage-y, kind of in that kind of vein. But it's free. Not necessarily the exact same, very dialed back as far as what you can actually do with it, but it's really good. And then the amount of sample packs that you get, bro, you could start a career on those free sample packs. 100%.
No, you actually could, and it's the same thing with the Slate stuff. You could literally do the same thing with that. Like, there's so many dope resources now, and it's also kind of like my quest is always to find the best sounding, least processed samples, because I want to be able to make them work for anything. Like that way, it's just a little bit more diverse, you know. And that's been the dopest thing about it, because it's like they're just basic sounds. And then like what I did for like my custom pack is I just went through all the basic like Ableton samples that they come with, like all the 808s and 707s and stuff like that. And then I just edited them and processed them. And then to how I would use them, and then I rendered them out. And now I have a whole folder of, you know, drum samples that are like sounds that I reach for whenever I'm doing either hip hop or like hyper pop
that are like Josh sounds.
Yeah, and so now the next quest is to do the same thing, but for pop, and then like the pop rock crossover stuff.
My next goal, I think, is going to be making like an effects pack, just kind of a broad effects pack, because I do so much random post production.
Dude, that's like a huge thing for me. Why? Okay, I think every producer can agree on this. Risers, downlifters, and open hi-hats are the hardest good samples to find.
Bro, open hi-hats all sound terrible. I have found maybe 5 that I like.
Every time I'm like, I just want a 707 or an 808, just like the typical, you know what I mean? Can't find them.
It's a little offbeat thing. Yeah, and it not get in the way of anything. Yeah, it's impossible.
There's actually one on Splice. There's a single one.
One single one. And there's a lot of, like you say, like risers, a lot of them are too aggressive, or they're like too short. Like you want them to,
or they're way too long.
Yeah, or they're like a minute long. Yeah, I don't know. Like it's one of those things where I think I'm probably going to go in and make like a bunch of appropriate samples, effect samples, like risers and impacts and stuff. That's the thing, bro. They all sound like they all open hi-hat sound like they're about to explode on me.
That one. That one.
Perfect.
That's perfect. The good stuff. Okay. That's from the Boy Wonder pack. It's BOI1DA _open _ hi-hat _04 dot wave.
Actually might have
that. That is the only good open hi-hat on Splice. I swear to God.
Only good open hi-hat.
I don't have my hard drive connected right now, but I could go through like my entire open hat library, and every single time I'm like, I hate all of these.
Yeah.
Why do I even keep them? I don't know.
Do I have the Boy Wonder pack? I'm pretty sure I do. I thought I got it off of your recommendation.
Bro, it's really good.
The sound.
I mean, once again, like, bro, all of these, like all the Boy Wonder packs, all the Ready Beats packs, like all of this stuff, it's literally just variations of that same like Lex Luger kit that dropped in like 03 or whatever.
Basically.
And so it's like none of it matters. I wonder if I can find that.
I wonder if I can find it, I think.
Is it from Splice?
I don't know if it's from Splice or if I got it from somebody.
Yeah, because I definitely don't want the Splice one.
So I have a Lex Luger kit from Splice that's different.
Soundpacks.com.
Is that it?
What is this? A bunch of scary ads with downloads on it. Oh, free downloads. This sounds like it's going to give my computer a virus.
Yeah. About that.
No, like you know what? I guarantee you that they have like the CD sets on eBay, because I'm going to buy one.
I'm sure. But yeah, I think I've really been impressed by the by the cymatic stuff in general. I think if you are just getting started and you had the Slate subscription and all the free cymatic, honestly, not even the Slate subscription. If you had a DAW and the cymatic stuff, you'd be fine.
No, you should get the Slate subscription because of Anna. I swear to God,
I was gonna say, if you wanted to go that next step further and start getting into synth and stuff, definitely get the Slate subscription because Anna has been a huge game changer for me.
Dude, Anna, like the new packs in it, some of them sound like they came out of Omnisphere.
Really?
Yeah, like I'm just like completely blown away. Like the only thing on my list right now for purchase is Omnisphere. It's the only thing. It's the only thing I want. And like this kind of like filled a little bit of that hole in my heart. They sound so good, dude.
I'm gonna go find that because I'm literally on there.
Yeah, you actually have to like install them through the Slate hub.
Through the Slate installer. Gotcha.
Yeah, that'll do it for you. Yeah, that and then they just added that 902 de-esser to the VMR, and that's been cool because now I have my CSEQ custom opto and 902 all in there, and that's the first thing that loads up, and that's what I use most, you know. And so I'll just like on a I could get like an SM7B recording and I load up my Ozone preset and then I load up my VMR preset and like the vocals 90% of the way done. And then I just put either Pro L or a clipper at the end of all of it.
And there you go.
And now it's like 95% of the way done. And then I just mess with the settings and then it's like cool the vocal stuff.
You tweak to taste. So lastly, very last thing, and then we're gonna call this an episode, is since Josh is moving, so it is June the 21st on time of recording. We are probably, I mean, we may do a couple episodes between now and the time that Josh actually moves. I don't want to say yes for sure because our schedules be busy and it's also getting into summer, like vacation time. So I don't know what be happening. Josh, you know what you're moving for sure?
Well, that's the thing. Or the nearest move-in date, like the furthest move-in date that we could get for the unit that we're interested in is July 5th. So we're applying for that tonight. And we're not actually going to be able to move on July 5th.
But you'll have the spot.
July. Like it's like mid-July.
Yeah, I expected mid to late July, maybe beginning of August.
That's what we've been everybody.
So what's exciting about this is Josh is going to be really close, which means in-person podcasts.
And now we have to start doing premium episodes, right?
We do.
You know, the bonus episode thing, we're going to have to start doing it now because someone has to pay for my gas.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, somebody, we got to set up a Patreon. We can finally have a place for all of our sound packs and free stuff to go. Like, we'll have to figure that out as we're going. But yeah, I think the goal is to have me and Josh shift over to regularly scheduled in-person podcasts. I'm hoping starting in August.
Same.
We will call that season 2.
Yeah, that'll be season 2.
Yeah. All of our stuff will change except for our branding.
Oh yeah, we should probably talk about that. So like we had this whole idea of doing like a complete format change where we just talk about things in audio, whether it's like news, gear.
Kind of like what we did today. Kind of like how laid back today was. Today.
Because like we both have ADHD and we really like those things and we're not trying to be educators, and like we talked about all the things that we could possibly talk about for new people. So like if you do and you still don't know how to do the thing, even though you listen to all of our other episodes, that's on you, bro.
Well,
I don't know what to tell you.
That's on you. I don't know.
Go to like masterclass.com or something like that. I don't care.
I'm making YouTube videos now more geared towards beginners. I felt like our first basically season of episodes was cool interviews we got to do combined with like really educational stuff. but now I'm like taking basically a lot of what we talked about, and I'm making like good 20 more concise versions of our podcasts, basically. That's kind of what I'm doing on my YouTube channel now. Is I have like, here's how you set up your Ableton, and I'm doing a lot of it with Ableton because a lot of people are getting into Ableton.
Bro, I started making Cubase videos because my homie Danny, he bought Cubase and he was like, bro, like I see all these like rock guys are using it. I want to start working on rock. I want to see what all the hype is about. And I'm like, trust me. He's like, bro, I can't do anything. Please help me. And I was like, well, there's only so much I could do over Zoom. So I just started making like quick videos. I'm like, all right, today I'm going to make a beat and I'm just going to talk about everything that I did. And like the cool part about Cubase, it's not really about learning Cubase. Like a lot of people get bugged out because like, oh, I have to learn Cubase. No, you don't. You have to make Cubase learn how you work.
Yeah.
And it's so much easier and it's so much faster. And so like I started showing him everything and he was like, oh my God, like you should like start uploading these. So I did a vocal tracking one in comping. Because the biggest thing about Pro Tools is like the comping workflow is actually really, really good.
It's great.
It sucks. There's no built-in tuning. There's no built-in audio alignments, and you have to use Audio Suite and like But so I like showed him like my process for that because like Cubase added all this stuff in it, so it's extremely usable. Showed him how I program things. Show him how I have my hotkey set up. Show him how I have my session set up. How other people set up their sessions. Blah 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 blah. And it's just like this is. Like the reason why I use Cubase is because Cubase works the exact way that I want it to, you know? And that was something I started talking about with Seth is like how like what we have mapped to different keys and like macros that we create and stuff like that and sharing them to give each other different ideas.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll have like a Cubase special. That'd be kind of cool.
That would be dope. I would honestly love to get you and Seth on or you and Leon to just nerd out about Cubase.
Right, we could probably get me, Lee, and Seth all nerding out about Cubase.
Exactly, and I'll just stand there being like, I don't know what's going on.
They're gonna be watching us work and being like, wow, they're so much faster.
Yeah. I'm doing some intro videos on Ableton. I did a setting up like all your stuff, all the technical aspects of it. I did like making music, like the basic, like dragging in samples, you know, the basics of editing, sample manipulation stuff in Ableton, which is pretty easy. And then like MIDI stuff, and I played some guitar and bass and like showed that workflow. And then I just recorded a video today on like basic mixing practices. So like our general like EQ and compression kind of videos. Kind of talked about that, side chaining, stuff like that, how to do a bunch of stuff in Ableton. So yeah, and I'm actually hoping to, so I have a copy of FL Studio from a friend, and then I need to get a copy of Cubase, and I want to blind try to produce a song in each of those. Make a video blind producing for the first time.
I just downloaded FL because like Danny had me inspired. You know, learning other DAWs just so you could do more things. I downloaded FL. I actually took the time to watch videos on how to use it this time. All right. This is my fourth time trying to use FL. First two times, didn't really care. Third time, I was like, all right, I should watch some videos. Didn't go over well. Fourth time, I like watched some videos, dude. Yeah. I was in there following things step by step. And like the idea that you have to make a pattern to then click in where the pattern goes actually makes me want to drown myself in my toilet. I will never use FL. That is the worst program in the world. And whoever decided that that was the go-to DAW for hip hop producers is absolutely wrong. And they should feel bad about it.
Yeah, I don't understand it, but I'm gonna try it. And I'm gonna try Cubase. And I'm gonna try producing. I haven't produced in Pro Tools in probably 7 years.
No, I'm out.
So I'm gonna try a video of me doing that too. And then I'll have like a cool like set of videos, you know, showing the difference of somebody brand new, basically like going into those. And if I can figure it out brand new, I'm sure you can figure it out.
Well, that's the biggest thing too, dude. Like I watch as many videos as I can of like people that I look up to. And it always shocks me how slow they all are. And it's not because they don't know what they're doing. It's because Pro Tools is actually just set up to be extremely slow. The fact that you
Especially if
can't
you're
customize hotkeys
producing.
in there. Well, they just made it so you could customize hotkeys, but I'm sure it probably doesn't work the same way that Cubase does. In Cubase, I noticed I was doing this thing, right? I would render in place, which is Cubase's way of just rendering your channel into audio.
Mhm.
Now, Cubase mutes that previous event, so it won't play. But then I would disable the track, and then I would hide the track.
Yeah.
Or I would just delete the track. But hiding it is nice. That way, you know, I can recall it if I need it later on. So I decided to make a macro one day. So now if I hit Shift S, it's going to render in place, mute the event, disable the track, and then hide the track. That's a lot.
By a one thing.
Yeah. And then I have just render in place mapped to Shift R, so I can do that. There's this one thing where if you highlight a bunch of tracks, if you right click on them in project view, you won't see the option. But if you go to the mixer, then you can make a group track for those tracks, groups or buses in Cubase.
Gotcha. Same.
So, yeah, so I was able to map that to a hotkey. So if I press F, then it'll just make a new track and already have the routing set up for it. I have E set up to load up the channel in Cubase. I don't use the mixer. I don't use the mixer anymore because I have everything set up just so it's super fast. When I'm not tracking vocals, I have it set up so if I click on an event, it selects that track. So if I see a piece of audio where I know that that's where the sound is coming from, instead of going over to the left side of my screen, I could just click and then press E and it'll bring up my channel settings.
That's really cool. Yeah, I don't think Pro Tools is quite there yet because there's some functionality they just don't have. But like I said, I feel like I'm gonna back to the overarching point. The podcast is gonna change a lot. And by a lot, I mean we're still gonna talk about audio stuff. It's gonna be a little more geared towards like still conversational stuff about what's going on in our lives and kind of like our trajectory, you know, as it is, but then also like stuff we find interesting that's kind of happening whenever stuff happens with like the writers union and like when Ross Golan kind of starts talking about that a little bit some more. I'd love to get your thoughts on that whenever that kind of comes across, you know, things like that. Maybe when the Grammys happen, we talk about like, you know, who got a Grammy, what we think about it. We just do some, you know, general reactions to events and new stuff and news and new plugins and crap like that.
Biggest thing I'm excited for, dude. All right. Biggest thing I'm excited for, MPC keyboard.
MPC keyboard. Oh, dude, I've heard rumblings of this.
Yeah, dude, it's not even like official yet, unless if it was just announced within the past couple.
I don't think it's been announced that I know of.
Dude, Scott Storch is using one, and I want one so bad. But like, yeah, a leak just went up of the packaging, and a new leak came out that said it's going to be priced at $18.99 USD, which is less money than an MPCX.
Bro, that's sick. Yeah, I'm
like $600. I'm buying one. I swear to God, I'm moving, getting my new room set up, buying an MPC keyboard.
That's tight. Well, I think Josh's excitement is a good place to end about this new MPC keyboard. No, Josh is
going to talk about it for an hour.
No, that's okay.
I'm good to go, baby. It's only 5 o'clock. I'm not even awake yet.
Mentally shot. We've been going for like an hour and a half. Josh is moving. I'm excited about in-person podcasts. Maybe we'll do a couple more of these online ones before you move, you know, if there's just stuff that we want to talk about, but I'm not I'm not trying to make it like a big stressful like weekly thing until we get you in and settled and then we kind of figure out what doing in person looks like.
Yep. I'm excited for that
stuff. But yeah, dude. Hey, thanks for chatting.
Of course.
Listen to that.
We'll see you later.
See you later.